is just wildly inappropriate. And yet, I'm really glad you're here.
Your actions were totally inappropriate.
For some reason, he felt that it was inappropriate.
Look into the camera and say something inappropriate.
You don't get personal. That is totally inappropriate behavior.
How inappropriate!
What exactly about my methods are inappropriate?
He tweeted some inappropriate things.
That's a little inappropriate, don't you think?
At what point is it inappropriate?
No, inappropriate. Inappropriate. Stop it right now. That is unbelievably inappropriate.
You're vulgar. You're inappropriate.
That's just grossly inappropriate.
Wow, you are so inappropriate.
It's such an inappropriate description.
Inappropriate, but precise.
Oh, you know what's inappropriate?
It's completely inappropriate. Why?
That's inappropriate! That's inexcusable!
Inappropriate things.
Be totally inappropriate.
Inappropriately so.
How very inappropriate, thank you.
Inappropriate.
It's wildly inappropriate. This is incredibly inappropriate.
This is highly inappropriate.
Okay, this is inappropriate. Grossly inappropriate.
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 Oh, hello. This is the RPG Pundit, final boss of Internet Shitlords. And today, this is Inappropriate Characters. I am joined by, as usual, Venger Satanis and Ryan David. Something's off with my camera angle, but that's my problem. Tonight, we're going to be talking about a couple of subjects that are in the recent news. And we're going to be checking out our newest products for the new year. And obviously, we're going to be answering your questions. So get them ready. If you have topics for discussion, jump on in. And we'll see how it goes. I see a comment there, Varane says, the camera angle doesn't include Meatball, and that's always an issue. Well, you know, it's summer here. It's wonderfully warm, unlike a large chunk of North America right now. And Meatball has been lately. She's been spending every single day from the moment I open the door until I call her in at night. She's been spending it outside. She's really become quite the obsessive huntress out there, I guess.
Is it because of the warmth, Pundit?
Well, yeah, I guess so. It's not hotter outside than in, really, but it's or less hot outside than in. But I don't know. I think she's getting old, and I think she wants to be able to continue to justify her existence. You know, she's going through, well, more than midlife crisis now. So she's been out playing the Great Huntress. Anyway, where are we starting tonight, Ryan?
Oh, you know, it's been an interesting month since we last talked. There's been a lot of different buzz that's been going on, but I don't know. I leave it up to you guys. We had a thought about WotC and their recent pivot, and everybody likes talking about WotC, so I can't think of a more appropriately inappropriate thing to start with than the Wizards of the Coast thoughts that were inspired by a conversation that Venger started. So Venger, why don't you tell everybody about this theory that's not really much of a theory. The writing's on the wall, right?
I think so. Well, we all know what WotC is going to do with whatever they're calling D&D. I don't know if it's D&D 1 or 6th edition or whatever, but it's going to be it's going to be a virtual sort of walled garden, totally online experience. It's going to be filled with subscription fees and microtransactions and possibly AI game masters. Certainly either AI or just hand illustrated but super crappy artwork. And I mean, to me as an outsider, I don't play games like World of Warcraft and other computer RPGs. I assume it's going to feel more like that than it will getting together, maybe with snacks at a table and just gaming. I mean, it probably won't even feel like one of the one shots on Roll20 that I sometimes run with like real people in because as a game master, you have your domain and you set the game up as you want and your own campaign setting, and you do it your way.
Right.
But now it's going to be you have to do it the way the Wizards of the Coast wants D&D, which I think is going to alienate a whole bunch of people. And it's also going to destroy the third-party market, because if D&D is completely this online experience over here, nobody cares about your homebrew, Oathbreaker, Tiefling feat combo supplement, because that's not going to be permissible inside their walled garden. They want complete control.
Get it into the VTT at all.
Yeah, and if they do, then that's going to be a completely separate market than like the things that we do on Drive-Thru RPG or wherever, the Red Room or Giant Slayer Games. So it's going to be a completely different experience. I don't know if it's going to crater a lot of the Drive-Thru RPG and even the Roll20 experience, because now all the people that are using Roll20 and Fantasy Grounds and other virtual tabletops, if they have a choice between that and what the experience that Wizards of the Coast has created over here, a lot of people, if they can't play in person, are just going to play Wizards of the Coast thing. And so that's also going to hurt the virtual tabletop market, like Roll20. Which is now tied with Drive-Thru RPG. So if I was Drive-Thru RPG and Roll20, I might be shitting my pants right about now.
I'm not so sure.
What's up?
I'm not so sure, because here's the thing, right? You're totally right that what Wizards plans to do is a walled garden, right? And they're going to have one D&D, right? And it's going to be protected, and there might be obviously third-party people who want to do supplements exclusively for one D&D that are going to do it inside the VTT, but it's not going to. They're not going to let other companies, for example, Roll20 will not be able to do official one D&D, right?
Right.
But what Roll20 will be able to do is they'll be able to do 5e. Because it's now all open source, right? There are Creative Commons rather. They'll be able to have third-party 5e people doing stuff.
Where's Mom? I'm doing my show.
Slight technical difficulties.
Sorry about that.
Right now. It's okay. So they'll still be able to do 5e. They'll be able to do 5e compatible stuff, right? They'll be able to do every other RPG. And the thing is, the people that sign up for the VTT are only going to have the one D&D experience, because they're not going to, like, Wizards isn't going to bring in competing games, right? So there'll be what's going to happen.
Okay, just a little sidebar. Do you think that, assuming that it goes fairly well for Wizards of the Coast, how long do you think they're going to bring in like a sci-fi game? like Pathfinder did with Starfinder.
That's a really big assumption that it'll go well for them. But if it does go well for them,
I mean, even if it goes shitty, they could probably add on. I don't know if it's pivoting, but they could probably add on like a sci-fi version to try to capture.
That's certainly reasonable. Also, it'll be because at that point, what's going to happen is it's going to be a totally different hobby, right? Like, because they're not going to be focusing like they're going to publish the 3 core books of 1D&D. They're going to publish that in bookstores. But after that, they're not going to do a ton of. They might once in a while do some special edition book or something like that, some gift book, something you want to put on a coffee table or a box set. But mainly, they're going to do everything virtually. That's their goal. They want you to go in there and pay the money, right?
Right.
And this is going to lead them to become something totally alien from the entire rest of the hobby, including the OSR, other editions of D&D, and the third-party 5e products, right? So they're going to gradually become alienated from everything else, and we are too, right, from them. So it'll end up being essentially a separate hobby, right? And it might work for D&D, it might not. But
I see it really straddling this video game crowd too, right? The developers that they have in are direct from Microsoft, so they have that influence. And they showed off this VTT a couple of months ago, and it is the equivalent of a AAA video game as far as hardware and system requirements too. So they're not shooting for the audience that we perceive.
Yeah. But look, this is the thing, right? They are trying to make it like a pseudo video game, right? Because I don't know about you guys, but for me, I'm probably a bad choice to be talking with any experts about this, because for almost my entire life, I only ever ran games at the tabletop, right? Like in-person games. And it's actually only been very, very recent, basically when the pandemic started, that I allowed myself to do an online RPG campaign. When I was playtesting the Invisible College is when that started. Now I'm doing my Sword and Caravan campaign is also online. But that's just like what we're doing right now. It's just we've all got cameras and we're talking. I'm not using any kind of virtual stuff. I'm not using Roll20 or anything like that, right? People just have to, show their dice or whatever. They don't really even. They're all people. I have a long waiting list for players, so mine get highly vetted. But so I don't have any experience with this kind of like mixture of adding in elements of either mechanical assistance or, as what the VTT is meant to be, is this pseudo virtual playmat, that's going to be almost video game like, and possibly, and I think quite a bit more than previous versions of equivalent tabletops, virtual tabletops. So
are you telling me that the players can't Venmo you 99 cents for a reroll?
Yeah,
that's an issue.
But
I don't believe that.
The problem
You're leaving
is
money on the table, pundit.
Yeah, I'm not into that. But the problem is that they have to compete with video games, and I'm not sure that's a great idea, right? Like Baldur's Gate 3 just came out, and it's incredibly popular. And you can, from what I understand, again, I don't do this, but you can run some of it as a kind of virtual tabletop already, right? So they're actually competing with their own licensed product, Yeah. And and the problem is that people who are video gamers might end up looking at the D&D VTT and think, well, that's not enough of a video game for me. While gamers might be like, tabletop gamers might be looking at the VTT and saying that's too much like a video game for me, right? So there's a lot of risk involved in this.
There's a lot of parallels that I draw too, and I hate to dig up the bones of the past, but the last time they tried to force a fundamental shift in what you needed to play the game was 4th edition, because that made it very tactical and very much an MMO, but still at the table, right? They did dabble with a virtual tabletop back then, but we know how that ended for them. And the problem is They're
it
not
ended
going to
literally in a murder-suicide, right? So these guys, Hasbro's had the worst luck with making BTTs, right? Their first one was a disaster. Their second one, the guy they hired to design it literally killed himself and his wife, you know, and then the project collapsed, you know. So they've just been really bad luck at it.
It's just a matter of you can't straddle both groups. You can't. You
Right.
have to choose a group, and ultimately,
I would think so. I mean, they're going to try to do both, but yeah, I don't think any of us think that that's going to work out well for them. I mean, we could be wrong, but I don't think we are.
I don't think they care about doing both. I don't think any of us are their audience, you know, like what they want is to get people like, you know, in some ways a VTT is going to be different than what they've been doing so far, because those, you know, books like Strixhaven are going to not exist there, right? You've got to have adventures that involve, like, you know, more traditional sort of dungeon crawly sort of stuff, or, you know, overland adventure sort of stuff, because that's how the video game would play, right? You're not going to have a video game of them being in a coffee shop, you know?
I don't know. I could see them totally implementing, for lack of a better term, an NPC stream into their virtual tabletop so that you could do a Strixhaven-y sort of thing.
But I think where they're going to appeal to the diversity crowd instead is in, like, all of these different ways you can mod your character, and all of that is going to cost money, right? And so what they're basically wanting is, like, you know, millennials and Gen Zers that will be perfectly happy to spend money on making their character a multicolored rainbow furry and getting to, like, show off, I don't know, ID tags about their pronouns, you know, and while they go and fight orcs, you know. So,
because most of the millennials and most of the Zoomers aren't going to have the money to to stay long term.
Their parents' money, they're the same money they're
always in this virtual world.
Yeah, but that well's going to run dry soon, Pundit, and it's starting to for some of that crowd, right?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, I have to work, you know, and when that kicks in,
I'm gonna have my avocado and toast and my craft like virtual D&D.
When their parents cut them off and they can't get Soros money, they're just going to open an OnlyFans account. You know, like that's part of their life cycle. It's just nature. It's nature at work. You know.
And then the girls on OnlyFans can then, like, do their gaming for one D&D naked, and then
hey, that's going to confront
the circle of life is
Grim.
Then they end up working for Grim Jim. You know, the cycle of
That's where Grim Jim rakes in the money.
And then Wizard says, "Oh shit, what do we do?"
All right, so have there been any comments here? You know, WotC is going to make the VTT mandatory. Well, it is. It's going to be mandatory if you want to play one D&D. The question is, how many people are going to want to play one D&D? You know,
are we sure that they're even coming out with core books?
They are. I can tell
they
you.
Are?
It would be really, because that's free money for them, right? Because it's just like, you know how, like, the new Doctor Who was horrible, but, you know, 10 million people saw it anyways because they just wanted to see if it would be horrible or not. Well, it's the same thing with the new edition of D&D, right? 4th edition, when it first came out, the first year, I predicted it was going to be a disaster. And in, like, the first couple of months when the Player's Handbook came out, people said, well, look at how many people bought it. Yeah, everybody's going to buy it because nerds have to look, right? They have to have the thing.
Not this nerd.
But after that, it's going to crater, right? And I think it's going to be very simple.
They're also
if you know ahead of time that one D&D is mostly going to be an online experience, and the books will almost be completely useless to you, why buy them in the first place?
Because they're credit, right? There's social credit amongst that crew. They have a DMG, but it's toilet reading material for them.
Right, but that's like 20% maybe.
Because of nerd obsession.
And then the other 80% are just going to, like, walk away, and they're going to do their 5th edition clone, or they're going to go to Pathfinder 2 point whatever, or they're going to, you know,
they are covering their bases with 5th edition.
OSE.
They're saying that one D&D will be fully backwards compatible with 5e. So they are covering their bases. They're going to try to wean what's left of their tangible physical gamers into this virtual tabletop, and then they can control
Not everybody's
it all.
going to come aboard, though. I mean,
not everybody is, but they're not going to have a choice later because, yes, they're still going to be producing these books. But I can tell you, it's not a surprise. I've said it on stream before. I have a stake in a local gaming shop that's here in my area, and the distribution channel that is being foreshadowed for this new crop of D&D stuff is incredibly thin compared to what's digital. And for me or someone at the store to sell a book, we are looking at, beyond the initial release, it's going to be a book digital bundle. That's the only SKU that we can order. So they're going to control the supply and force it there, right? I don't know.
You guys should start carrying Chalt. And that other guy's books too, somewhere up here.
I don't care. Bookstore sales are very small, anyways.
But they help.
I think the only publisher I ever worked with in an RPG field that has a distributor for bookstores is Bedrock. I think you can get Arrows of Indra, but everything else you just have to you'd have to order it from drive-through or something to get the books in your store, so it'd be pointless, and you wouldn't be able to sell it at a profit.
Right, and the stores are able to buy literally at retail from Amazon cheaper than they can from their distributor right now. Imagine when the Penguin deal totally is done, because there's still stuff in the pipe from Penguin. Once that's all moved through, Wizards has no distribution.
Yeah, basically. So the real question here is, let's presume the virtual tabletop, whether it succeeds or fails, is going to end up separating essentially the thing that is now the official D&D from the entire rest of the hobby. And the question will be who benefits from that and who should be really worried about that, right? And I know the answer, obviously, because I'm the pundit, but let's hear what you two have to say first.
I think that Hasbro, not Wizards, but Hasbro benefits from it. They've taken all of the steps, and I look at things from that other angle because that's half of my life too. When I look at this from a business perspective, Hasbro has taken all of the steps to secure the expectation that Wizards will underperform. And that's something that a company always wants to do. Now, I've been singing a conspiracy theory about this for 18 months, but it's been slowly coming true. Hasbro has positioned themselves that their balance sheet is great in the eyes of a normal investor or fund, simply because they've normalized the poor sales of the last 18 months. So those sales are normalized. They're capturing the portion of the market that's always going to buy everything all the time. Instead of shooting for the middle, which is where you're supposed to aggressively target because that's where growth happens, they've set the table so that as long as they maintain these very, very low standards, on paper, it looks good. So Wizards doesn't benefit. Hasbro benefits, and I think independents are going to benefit because there's already a sour taste in their mouth from 2023, starting with the OGL a year ago, moving through the atrocious releases that they had, and finally wrapping up and sort of, like you said, competing against themselves with this AAA video game. The expectation that the virtual tabletop, and this is a real expectation for some people, the virtual tabletop's going to be Baldur's Gate 4. That's not a realistic expectation. And when that doesn't meet the needs of that crew, they're either going to exit the hobby or they're going to find the real hobby. And I think that either of those outcomes is acceptable. So
yeah, or they'll just go on Baldur's Gate 3, right? So that's also possible. Yeah. Anyway, yeah, no, your points are good. I mean, the BTT will determine whether it's good or not for Hasbro. If the BTT succeeds, it's certainly going to be good for Hasbro. But there's a lot of possibilities that the BTT can crash and burn, and that'll be bad for Hasbro. But the successor, curiously, the successor failure of the BTT doesn't affect anybody else in the hobby except Hasbro.
Right.
Because it could be rapid success, but it'll still mean that D&D is totally separate from the rest of the hobby now. Or it could be a complete failure, in which case D&D is still totally separate from the rest of the hobby now, at least until somebody makes another edition that goes back to being more traditional,
Don't you think that if D&D falls, then the popularity of role-playing games in total falls?
Right, because D&D is like the Kleenex or the Q-tip. It's the name that represents the hobby, unfortunately.
Well, I did a video about this. I was analyzing someone's thread on X about whether or not the golden age of 5th edition D&D is about to be over. And my position is that, yes, it probably is. The guy's analysis is probably right. But there are some people that need to be really worried about that, and some people are going to do well about that. And one of the people I think is going to do well about that is the OSR. The last time that D&D, that Wizards D&D in a 4th edition, that led to the opening up of the OSR in the day. And it was a hugely beneficial thing, and a bunch of people came to the OSR when they stopped playing D&D. Because they hated 4th edition. So I think that those of us who write OSR games are actually going to continue to do well and possibly do better after 1D&D happens than before. We don't need to worry too much. The people that do need to worry a lot.
Judd Goswick in the comments said, that is why I support the stay in Blue Rose policy until they can be vetted as asylum seekers.
Yeah, we're going to need to build our own big, beautiful wall or something. Yeah.
Yeah, when you come to the southern border, you stay in Mexico.
He's right, though.
And when you try to approach the OSR, stay in Blue Rose.
Yeah, there is a possible downside, which is that a lot of the people that are currently 5e players, with all of their particular ways of looking at things, might suddenly decide, we might be filled with these late millennials and Gen Z kids that want to come to the OSR and start playing, trisexual furries or something.
We need to yell at them to
I love Lion and Dragon, but how dare you not have tieflings in it,
There's a small, and it's small, but that trickle is already started, Pundit. So you might see an uptick in some sales, and they're gonna wonder, hey, where's the butt plug tail? I can't find it in this book. So it's coming. It's coming.
Now the people that need to be the most afraid are anybody who are tied to 5th edition, right? So like the third-party publishers. They're going to have to, some of them are going to survive, I think. They're going to shift. It also depends how much people keep playing 5e after 1D&D happens. Now, if you look back to 3rd edition was hugely successful, and it had a huge amount of third-party products, all of the D20 products. And yet, when the switch to 4th happened, that just collapsed. The D20 products ended. The Pathfinder replaced it. Yeah, that's true. But, you could have thought that everybody else all the people who were invested in the D20 wave could have kept trying to do it, but they didn't. It just kind of faded away very, very, very quickly. And so there is a chance that all the third-party 5e stuff will just fade away too, because, it proves something. The OSR succeeds because old school D&D is actually the one true constant D&D. It's always that and whatever the current edition is. Those are the two that are actually viable, right? Everything from 2nd to soon to be 5th are not going to be viable.
So, Pundit, is there any doubt in your mind that Paizo is not sitting there, rubbing their hands and waiting with a 5e clone already ready to go? I think Paizo, I totally believe that they do have one.
Paizo probably wants to do that, but I don't know if they're in the position to actually be the ones to accomplish that. I think somebody might.
Didn't they just come out with a new one?
There will be a 5e clone, but I'm not sure that you should look to existing companies to be the ones that end up successfully doing it.
Paizo
Didn't
just did
Paizo
their
just come out with a new
the Pathfinder 2E.
Yeah, the Pathfinder, yeah.
No, after that, didn't they? Or was that a different company? They came up with what's the Black Flag one that they changed the name because that was too cool.
Cobalt Press.
Press, yeah. They're trying to do it, yeah. But the problem is these guys are deviating from like 5e when they're making it, right? Like this is part of the you know, our other topic of tonight is going to involve Candela Obscura and all this. And it's like after the OGL thing happened, a whole bunch of the people that were doing 5e related products, including like Critical Role, right? Critical Role is going to be screwed by this change, right? They started making their own systems, but they decided to get smart, and they, with smart as in stupid, and they changed the systems, right? They're like, oh, we roll 2d10 or we roll 2d12 or whatever you did, and the mechanics are different because we didn't want Hasbro to sue us, right? And those games aren't going to be successful, right? Like I think one of the big, probably one of the biggest groups that need to be really worried are all the live streamers of RPGs, because part of their success, even though a lot of them have their own fandom, half of the success of Critical Role was people who liked 5e. And as soon as 5e doesn't exist anymore, and they're not, what are they going to do? Are they going to go on the virtual tabletop and film that? That's not going to work for Critical Role. It might work for some people on Twitch or some shit, right? But I mean, who knows? But it's not going to work for the Critical Role people, because the whole point of Critical Role people is you see them acting and pretending that they're playing D&D, right? So, I think they're going to start to see a big decline very quickly after the switch to BPP happens.
But you did say the key. Half of them were 5e players. The other half were people that stumbled on, for lack of a better term, a show to watch, right? Entertainment.
Like
they're going to be able to keep that core.
But the problem is they're trying to make these new games now, right? Critical Role's making its own RPGs. But the people that play 5e just want to play 5e. And the other half of the people don't actually play anything at all. I mean, there's a literal study about this. 50% of the Critical Role fans have never played an RPG at all, right? And they're not going to start just because Critical Role makes one. Like they don't care. They don't want to play a game. They want to watch a TV show. That's what they're doing.
The seal has been broken. We got our first super chat from the Ultra American TTRPGer. I have just 2 words, Ryan. Horse Girl. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Horse Girl, but Horse Girl's become a running joke in our circle. Maybe Horse Girl will be the great virtual tabletop killer. Venture, are you familiar with Horse Girl?
I'm not.
Horse Girl.
I have no idea.
All right, Horse Girl is a Leyline Press publication. So that'll tell you all you need to know right now. It's for lack of a better term, a story game. But I don't immediately discount things like, I've had my fun with story games.
Sure.
Everyone knows the tales of Vampire the Masquerade and Chasing Hot Goth Girls and things like that. Story games have a purpose. Horse Girl is a story game that tries to do more of what we've seen everywhere, which is just normalize the deviance. You play a character that has fallen madly in love with the man of your dreams, Venger. Am I selling you? And he invites you to live in his mansion. And he will give you all that you need for the rest of your life, but on the condition that you allow him to, quote, psychologically and physically transform you into a horse. It gets better. One of the play mechanics.
Is what you're saying.
Well, one of the play mechanics is you take a red Sharpie and draw on yourself as you progressively turn into a horse, including drawing on the horse's big assets. So, anyway, it's just more normalization of deviance. So Ultra American, I don't think we're going to get there yet, but Horse Girl could be the virtual tabletop killer. It won't be.
All right then.
And Surly says, unfortunately, I am now familiar with it thanks to me.
Yeah.
Anything worth doing is worth doing right. So
I wish I could go back in time and not know what that is, but
I said I'm gonna clone it and skin it and make a new game for release called Hot Ass Sexy Goth Slut. So instead of turning into a horse, you could turn into something that's at least useful in the world.
I would at least click on the thumbnail to see that cover image better.
I did mock up cover art for it.
I would be interested in seeing that.
Give me 30 seconds.
So, Jesus Christ. So there are groups that are going to be in a lot of trouble, and the closer connected you are to 5e, the more trouble that you're going to be in. But I think that what the people are going to benefit, actually, like for example, Roll20, if Hasbro doesn't just buy them out or something, might actually do okay because of this, because there are a lot of people that play with these kind of virtual assistants when they're playing online campaigns, right? And so they're going to want to have somewhere that they can actually play these games that and it's not going to be the Hasbro one, right? So Roll20 can be the place where you play everything else, and that could be a benefit.
There you go, Venture.
What the hell am I? Okay, so you got Betty Crocker on one side, and then you got like Morticia Adams, like fangirl, on the other.
Let's take an LG thrown into here, Venture.
That's weird.
We're on the other side of the veil now.
Yeah, we are.
We got another super chat in point blank. Thank you so much. $2. Wasn't Horse Girl an OnlyFans thing? I don't know. And I'm going to use this phrase gently. I didn't dive deep enough into the history to find that out. But now I feel obligated to find out. I know that Samuel Mew is the author. He is a very outspoken they-them sparkle troll. More power to him. He's selling copies, and he was able to license out his, at that time, only text game to Leyline. So he made $1. Good for you, Sam. I'll find out. Thank you for the super chat, point blank. Another super chat coming in. Jeff
from Denver.
I'm terrible with names. Imagine me when I was in public education, going through the first day of school and reading the roster. Hello, working on my first OSR adventure and hoping to eventually publish it. Which OSR publishers are friendly to new writers or open to submissions? I think the interesting thing about the OSR is just about everybody will at least hear you out. And if they're not going to take you on, they're going to encourage you to do it on your own. Right, guys?
Well, yeah, that's a little bit Pollyanna of you, because honestly, almost all the OSR is self-publishing, right? Venture's self-publishing,
I'm now self-publishing.
Everybody's self-publishing. Unless your name is the RPG Pundit, it's unlikely, because it's very small press and it works on very small margins, right? So the only way you're going to get a deal where you're going to get royalties is if you've got a product that the publisher thinks is that they're going to start working on some of their projects to work on yours. So unfortunately, Jeff, again, unless you build up a lot of independent fame in some way that your name alone will be enough of an attraction, you got to be the RPG Pundit to do that. I've never published.
Have you guys not heard far and wide the name of Jeff Ramdenkar?
We haven't, but we might, and that's the beauty of the OSR.
I'm not making fun of Jeff, because I mean it's an honest question. Because in most of the other, books writing stuff, you look for a publisher, right? But in the OSR, you've got to either learn to self-publish or, start. You got to figure out how to make PDFs on your own or something, and start putting them up on DriveThru or something. You've got to get a name for yourself.
I have a little bit of advice. So for people Jeffren Denkar or people like him. And that advice would start with figure out what your niche is.
Yes.
And lean into that pretty hard. And then figure out who is publishing that thing that it's for.
Like,
so if you're doing like weird fantasy that would kind of be under the Lamentations of the Flame Princess umbrella, write it up and then send it to James Broggy and see what he thinks.
That wouldn't be your own book, right? Like you could pitch to Jim Raggi if you like his stuff. If you like Lamentations, you could pitch an adventure that you could write, and he will publish it if he likes it, right? So that's a real possibility. You're right. And the Reddit Room has published. They're not publishing me, but they published other people. At least the Men RPG supposedly was published. It was written by someone else, and they published it, right? But those are the only two examples that come to mind immediately from the. So I guess you could try to write a DCC adventure if you wanted to, but you've got to be kind of woke to do that now, apparently.
I would say if you're really into like no art school, like AD&D type, just kind of like an older school vibe. The Prince of Nothing, over at his Age of Dusk blog, he does these compilations where people send adventures in to be judged, and if you make the cut, then he publishes it in like a group, I think. So there's something like that. If someone were to write like a kick-ass Schultz adventure and send it to me, and I loved it, I would probably buy it or license it or publish it, and then who knows, maybe give them a flat fee or a share of revenue or something like that. It just depends, but obviously it would have to cater to my taste, just like it would have to cater to Ragi's taste or Prince of Nothing or whoever you're trying to pitch it to.
The other thing is you could dip your toe in and try to write some stuff for some of the zines, right? They always have a call for submissions, and that is a great way to sort of see how your style is going to be received in the hobby. So there's a lot of different avenues, but I think Pundit, I was trying to be positive, but Pundit's true. You have to really get out there and grind on your own. And I think all of us. I'm
the only guy I know that gets away with this, where because I was already well known because of my blog and then my YouTube, I've never had to publish because I just say I want to write a game, and I say, if you're a publisher and you want to publish my game, come and tell me. There's a bunch of publishers that make their own games, but they also realize that publishing a Pundit game will make them money and get more attention to their editorial. So so they go for it, and I've had some wonderful publishers, but I'm pretty sure that if I wasn't the RPG Pundit, if I was some unknown guy, they wouldn't have taken the risk in publishing, and they certainly wouldn't have cut a deal that would be sufficiently mutually profitable, because it's a hard industry. But yeah, Jeff, you've got to, if you really want to get to the point, if you don't want to be a self-publisher, the only way you're going to get there is if you somehow start writing for other people's games, like Jim Raggi or Venger, who was put the offer on the table for you there, and you write something really cool, and people get to know your name, and then maybe you'll be able to do that with an RPG of your own. It's possible.
Lots of good thoughts. Do you guys want to move into the second topic? Do you want to talk about?
Should we do our shilling first and then go on to the second topic? Just so
just in case we run long.
Yeah, I see the bag starting to collect under the old man's eyes there. So, Pundit, you want to go first this week?
I guess I could. Yeah,
all right. We'll change it up a little bit. Why not? Let me see. I think everybody knows that you've had some good experiences with the Pundit files, but tell everybody about number 3.
Are doing quite well already. We're off to issue number 3 now. So just to clarify, so I'm selling the Pundit Files exclusively at the Red Room store, and so they are selling my PDFs there, but they're not the publishers of the Pundit Files. They're just the what do you call it, the point of sale. Yeah, the marketplace for it, right? The Pundit Files, I should mention, because I haven't actually talked about this before, but if you've bought one, you've seen that, you know, if you've looked at the credits, you know this. The Pundit Files is being published by a very new small press called Mad Hermit Games. It seems that lately all my publishers are mad, right? Because Sword and Caravan is published by Mad Scribe Games, and these guys are Mad Hermit Games. And they've done, I think, 1 or 2 books so far, and they want to do more, but the publisher is actually one of the players of my Sword and Caravan campaign. I got to know him from there, and he's a great guy. And he said, you know, I could put together the PDF. And I said, okay, yeah, let's try. And he put together the sample of issue 1, and it was really good. It's like if you look at if you've bought the Pundit Files, you know this already, any of the issues. But if you look at them, they've got a couple of nice art pieces in every one, and the layout is really, really well done. So this is a guy that's got some good skills. I think he just goes by the Mad Hermit, so I'm not going to tell you his real name. And they're really good, and I'm hoping that when they start making some more products, you'll check out their products too. The current issue that has just come out about 5 days ago is Pundit Files 3, which is about a new character class for Lion and Dragon or Sword and Caravan or what have you, which is the Renegade Martial Artist. The timeline of Sword and Caravan coincides with the Song Dynasty in China, and this was the time when you saw what was really the beginning of what would become what we today know as, like, you know, the Chinese martial arts in their modern form. It's the very start of that, and a large part of it is the product of, and I mean, this is actual real history as usual. You know, it's the product of a single guy who his name was Zhu Tong. Also, his nickname was Iron Arms. And he had been a soldier in the Song army, and he saw that the Song were becoming corrupt. They had started bribing the local barbarians instead of fighting them, and he predicted that this would be a disaster for the Song, which it was, because eventually the Jin Chinese conquered half of China, right? Or the Jin invaders, right? The Jurchen, they conquered half of China. So when Zhu Tong retired from the army, he started traveling all around China and started teaching a variety of martial arts styles that he had derived from a time when he had been trained somewhat in Shaolin Kung Fu by a monk. And he developed a number of different martial arts styles that still exist to this day, apparently, right? So the book has the stats for a new character class, the Song Renegade Martial Artist, which is the classic sort of independent martial arts scoundrel, you could say, the guys that are often the heroes of a lot of wuxia stories, and it includes 4 new styles of martial arts, all of which were derived from Zhu Tong, that you can use for Lion and Dragon or for any OSR product, I guess, in a broadly compatible sense. And as usual, you can get it only from the Red Room, and the cost is $3.50. So that's what I've got right now. As far as Baptism of Fire, because I'm sure someone's going to ask about it, and Chris Miller is here. Hi, Chris. he can answer any further questions after this. There's still some delay with the art, mainly. So there, he's trying to get that done. I'm not going to give a prediction of when it's coming out, but maybe he will. So it's still coming. It's coming up, and it's getting close to being done. But as usual, the art is the sticking point, as it so often is with these products, But it'll be coming out soon, so keep your eyes open for that too. And I guess that's it. I mean, check out all my other products too if you haven't already. But that's my newest thing is Pundit Files number 3.
Avenger, you got something exciting, and we're in the middle of it right now.
Yes.
That is the Chalt experience.
Oh,
Designing
I was going to talk
like
about
a fucking boss.
I was going to talk about my OnlyFans account with Rex here, who is my co-star
Dino
and
guy,
game master extraordinaire. This guy.
I don't want to know where that puppet has been. You know.
Yeah. So yes, let me sit up for this one. Okay, so I do have a Kickstarter. It's called The Chult Experience: Designing Worlds Like a Fucking Boss. And that whole title fit perfectly in the number of characters they give you for Kickstarter for the title of your project. So say it with me. It's the prophecy. But yeah, it's me taking what I've learned from creating Chult. I started the very beginning, just kind of brainstorming, thinking like, yeah, I want to do this. I want to create my own campaign setting to run games in. So probably, I don't know, sometime in 2018. And I've been creating and building it and refining and using it since then. And it's been a wonderful experience. The people that have created their own campaign settings, I'm sure already know this. But in the beginning, and even before that, even as I was doing it, it was intimidating. It was something I'd never attempted something on that scale, and I kind of was looking for inspiration and occasionally floundering and trying to come up with like what is the best approach. Or there's really like a million little things that go into designing a world. And so this is kind of like hold your hand or tentacle and, leads you on the path. And, I relate anecdotes and hopefully I have good insights and wisdom for people that also want to design their world or want to take an existing world and just kind of personalize it and attune it to themselves and their table. So yeah, it's fully funded at $5,000 and it's got like 6 days left. So hoping to hit 10,000. That would be nice. So yeah, back it. The top tier is the Chult trilogy in hardcover. So that would be awesome if you wanted to buy that. Get some more of those out of my basement. My wife would thank you. I mean, they're fantastic books. I literally use them every single session. There's an adventure in there, or there's a random table, or a monster, or a dungeon, or something like that. So I'm always, I always have my trilogy next to me at the gaming table, so I can like reference them. Yeah. So there's that. There's a couple other little PDFs that I come up with. I think I've already talked about the last episode we did. Under Fuchsia Sky, that's the Chult webcomic. There's the Gilded Die of Satanas. Speaking of Candela Obscura, which we will be soon, or you guys will soon. I kind of took their Gilded Die and kind of like reshaped it and made it my own. So it's completely different than what they were doing, but that's also there. It's probably, I mean, it's definitely not for everybody. All my stuff is not for everybody, but this even more so is not for everybody than most things, because it will take whatever your normal Lord of the Rings type or Game of Thrones type, like serious, maybe grim, dark, pseudo medieval fantasy, and it will turn it more into like an Adam Sandler film, or like Caddyshack, or Zoolander, or something like that, because that's what it does. The Gilded Die of Satanas will take normal actions, and it will force you to inject extra humor, like something that's awkward or embarrassing or just cringe, and it it wedges that stuff in there, and so it will completely change your game. If you like a super serious game, do not buy this product. But if you want something that's going to make it more like an 80s kind of raunchy or even early 2000s inappropriate kind of adventure, like Thunder, what is it, Thunder Dogs, the Vietnam Rolling Thunder, I don't know, something like that.
Thunder.
Yeah, Tropic Thunder, like that. So if you want your game to be more like Tropic Thunder and less like Lord of the Rings or Game of Thrones, then check that out. But yeah, the Kickstarter. Thank you everybody that's already backed it. But yeah, if you haven't already, check it out at least. Read it, see what you think. If Pundit likes it, he's going to write the foreword, which is exciting.
I was going to say, Avenger, it's on the chat. You said you'd have to be crazy to publish one of the RPG Pundits games, but you're crazy enough that you announced that I'm going to write the foreword to this book before I read a word of the book. So the foreword might be me talking about how much it sucks. I don't know.
It might. I think people would pay for that.
Actually, I admire your bravery.
Masochism by proxy. That's a thing, right? Anyway, that's it for me. I'm done.
I'm going to chime in and remind everybody with this Kickstarter, if you don't have any of the Chult trilogy or you want the Chult trilogy in hardcover, Venger mentioned it, but he was very modest about it. $111 gets you all 3 hardcovers and the PDF of Designing Worlds Like a Fucking Boss. So go to Kickstarter and that is, you're in. $33 a book for a core book. Come on. My turn, I guess. I finally was able to push out something that I put for sale instead of for free, and that is the Village of Greenhaven. Greenhaven is a pre-generated but not on rails town for you to pop into your game. And you might be thinking, well, but I'm running this system. It doesn't matter. It's system agnostic. It is 40 pages of goodness that give you the bones of a village, including events, characters, NPCs, plenty of random tables, and just good stuff that you can pop into your game. Right now, through the end of January, you can pick this up for $1.99. We went copper bestseller in the first week. Thank you. There's a lot of folks in the chat that I know have picked it up already, and I am so humbled and appreciated that you, A, gave me a shot, and B, actually kind of liked it. I've had really good feedback on it, to the extent that it is not going to be the only pop-in principle from this world. But if you need a town that is fleshed out and ready, it's designed to be imagination fuel for dungeon masters everywhere, where you take what's here and run with it. I encourage you to check out the Village of Greenhaven. It's available on drive-thru. Just search for Greenhaven, all one word. It's $1.99 for the PDF through the end of the month. POD is coming soon, and I'm committed to, for these pop-in titles, to keeping them accessible to everybody. I know I'm getting a lot of crap from a lot of other creators that I've underpriced myself to a fault, but I wanted it to be at a price where it's a cup of coffee, so everybody can have this in their campaign. When the print version comes, I did the same darn stupid thing. It's going to come out, I'm looking at about $7 for the Village of Greenhaven. So
who is criticizing you about the price? I'm just curious, like just random people on Twitter?
No, not random. I've talked behind the scenes, and I'm not gonna, Pundit's gonna give me shit about this because I don't like to name drop, but it's other creators that I've talked about my process with and that have given me a lot of advice, and they said that $1.99 is too cheap. It's really a $2.99 book. and it goes to $2.99 February 1st. But I wanted to put it out there for $2 for everybody to scoop up, because even at $3, you don't lose anything, right?
How many pages is it?
It's 40 pages.
Yeah, that is cheap. That's a good price.
Was it Tom Hanks? Is that who you didn't want to name drop?
Yeah, Tom Hanks said, if you drop my name and connect me with Epstein in any way, I will destroy your $2 supplement. So, no, check it out. It's, like I said, it's got everything you need just to pop in, from NPCs to random tables to actual different events that could just take place in the village. So I appreciate it.
Question.
Yeah.
So if I downloaded Greenhaven, did Jeffrey Epstein kill himself?
Well, we don't want to say that on the stream and have YouTube yank it. Epstein.
Will they do that? Will YouTube do that shit?
Not anymore on that particular phrase, but they did cut streams when certain phrases come out.
Okay. January 6th was an inside job, guys.
See, he doesn't care because he's going to sleep, pundit. He's going to sleep. But check out Greenhaven. I really think that you'll like it. You got nothing to lose. $2. And if you do like it, it's going to be the first in a series of books that are designed for you to pop into any system agnostic. So I hope that you enjoy. And of course, the normal stuff. Check out the Nerd Cognito podcast. Drops every week. And we do the Saturday Speakeasy live stream on YouTube every Saturday at 5 Eastern. So that's all I've got.
Awesome. Well, I will sign off then, because it is that time.
It is that time.
I told you guys what the warpath looks for me the next couple days. So, yeah, I better go before there's no more Benjer. I don't know if people saw the little dice display that I bought. It was like 3D printed. I bought this like a year ago. It was like this weird seafoam with like the lines because of the 3D printer. Well, I finally got off my butt and like painted it. And so, yeah, it's cool. I forgot to talk about this earlier, but I just want to show it off. I will also have pictures on my blog as soon as I get the session report from yesterday's game on my blog, probably tomorrow, because I didn't get time to finish it because the kids were stir crazy and it's 0 degrees out. So anyway, that's it for me. Thanks everybody for watching, and you guys have a good rest of the show.
See you, Avenger.
All right. Avenger.
See you.
And then there were two. And we've got Candela Obscura left to go, which doesn't set my world on fire. Want to take a minute and recover. I've been egregiously ignoring the chat tonight, not through any fault of theirs. We love the chat. It's just I'm all over the place right now. So let's see what we got back in here. You did answer already about what your tobacco is for today.
That's right.
Bunch of people saying how Greenhaven is going into their games. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. No, it looks like we're pretty caught up. I guess I'm not.
Chris Miller made you an offer there.
I saw that, Chris. We'll have to talk. My world professionally gets set on fire in January and doesn't die down until April. But I certainly will be in touch with you if I have any germs of ideas that I think are worthy of Mad Scrap. I still suffer from horrible imposter syndrome. So I'm trying to get over that hump. But no, Chris, I sincerely appreciate that. And you know how to touch base with me. We'll talk privately.
All right. So the thing I wanted to comment on about it is about Candela Obscura, but it's about something that happened on X or Twitter or whatever you want to call it the last a couple of days ago. So for those of you who don't know, and I suspect actually probably almost everyone watching does know already, Candela Obscura is a new RPG that Critical Role has put out as they're trying to distance themselves from D&D, which is, like I said, I suspect that's a big mistake for them, but we'll see. I think this is the beginning of their decline. But they're doing a new campaign that's set in this kind of pseudo-Victorian world that is kind of meant to be Lovecraftian, but they didn't want to just do Lovecraft because, of course, he's problematic. So they made their own. They made their own game. It's not 5e. It's not really a D&D game in any way. And they made a game for it, and I think they did a Kickstarter for it or something, and I'm sure they've made a lot of money from it at the moment. And it's this world of Victorian secret society fighting against evil in a dark world, except that dark world is explicitly a world where everybody is multicultural, and they explicitly put in the rules that there's no racial strife of any kind in this setting, right? So you're not allowed to do that. And so it's Victorian, but in no way is it actually Victorian. In other words,
if anybody doesn't know what this is, I have a picture that's worth 1,000 words.
Go for it.
This will tell you all you need to know about the premise that's behind Candela Obscura. Okay. So, there you have it, guys. I'm generally pretty good with words. I've got no words.
So
now I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, that's okay. That was a useful visual aid there. So now Candela Obscura has got their books out on DriveThruRPG, and somebody on Twitter had made the claim that DriveThruRPG has deleted any negative reviews of Candela from their site. DriveThruRPG quickly responded saying that they have not deleted any reviews at all, but that some comments may have been hidden that have been made there. Now, the reason for all this, or the context for all this, is that almost everybody who has looked at Candela Obscura has criticized it as a game. And obviously the anti-woke people have criticized the wokeness of it, right? But besides that, ignoring that for the moment, it is mechanically very bad, apparently. And I think Black Lodge Games did, or Black Lodge rather, no, not Black Lodge Games, sorry. The Black Lodge YouTube channel made a video about this that was pretty definitive in their analysis. And so if you really want to get all the details, you can check them out. It's basically a horrible game, right? And
in a nutshell.
And so what I think had actually happened, because the guy who made the claim originally rolled it back when DriveThru said what they said, and
yes.
There have been a lot of negative videos, including from people that that are not in any way anti-woke, right? But that just said it's really a bad game. And so I suspect that there's probably been in some of these comments in DriveThru quite a bit of shit posting about the game. And now here's the thing, right? Like the argument that the guy originally made on X was that there were the Candela books are on sale at DriveThru now, or are for sale on DriveThru now, I mean, and they have no reviews, right? So I think he just kind of assumed that somebody must be blocking all the reviews, right? But there's a difference if you're familiar with how DriveThru works. To post a review, you have to have bought the product on DriveThru, right? And I think, of course, a lot of the people that got Candela Obscura got it from the Kickstarter or whatever they did, the crowdfunder that they did for it. Now, the Candela products, some of them have already hit like gold bestseller status, which is quite good, right?
Right.
And I think that probably there aren't a lot of reviews there just because those are like secondary buyers, right?
And I think it's important for folks that aren't regular drive-through purchasers. They have a tabbed interface. By default, it's discussion. And then they have the reviews, which is behind the wall of you have to have had purchased it not at cost. So you had to pay. I think the threshold is like 20 cents or something. I don't know.
You can't do a review if you're associated with the product in any way. There's a lot of special rules about
you also can't review if you're a creator of any kind. So if you have a account with drive-through,
you can't do a review. Yeah.
Right.
So here's the thing, right? So the comments, on the other hand, you don't have to have bought a product to put a comment on it, right?
Correct.
And that what that means, and I think the guy on X originally got this claim that they were deleting reviews. He got it from somewhere on Reddit, which you should never trust Reddit. The thing about the comments is that since anyone can post it, like usually I think that the real purpose of the discussions section, or which is what we're calling the comments here, is mainly so that people can ask questions about the product and the publisher has a chance to clarify on those questions, But of course, people can also say, they could just say, this is a great game or this game sucks or something like that, right? The thing is that because this product got a lot of negative attention, it wouldn't surprise me that there were people putting comments on that were directly negative and possibly that had like zero content in terms of like anything meaningful to say, because some of the people making these comments probably never even looked at the book, right? Like they have no idea, but they're just choosing to trash the book as much as they can because they've been told that it sucks, and I'm sure it does suck, right? The Black Lodge video was very convincing, and quite detailed, but like this is a situation where I would say that it, like if somebody's brigading a product, it does make sense to just not allow that kind of activity to go on, right? Like it's one thing if you make a legitimate criticism, like somebody who's actually pointing out something about the game, and it's another thing if it's just people swearing about the game in the discussions in the hopes that it'll draw people away from it. So and the fact that there are no reviews is perhaps telling, that in some ways that the game isn't all that good, and that people that have bought it just wouldn't bother to make a positive review because they're not they're not finding it all that interesting, so that says something too. So I think probably drive-through is being completely honest about this,
and we have no reason to think that they're not either, right?
Yeah, of course. And the question that I'm asking here is what people think about this. Like, should a retailer, let's call it like drive-through, allow products that are put on drive-through to be brigaded with zero content negative comments, and my position is basically no, because I mean I know that there have been people who have done that with my games, people who don't like me and therefore go and say crap about my games, without any real content. Like if someone wants to criticize some part of my product in a meaningful way, like you can point out something specific about one of my books and say that there's something legitimately bad about it, that's one thing, right? It's a totally different thing if it's just a bunch of people saying this game sucks or something like that, but I want to know what the audience thinks about that.
Well, you guys get your thoughts in. I'll tell you where I'm at. I think it's a tough call for the retailer. they're really in a rock and a hard place, being drive-through, because you don't want the Amazon experience, right? Amazon reviews are next to meaningless because the floodgates are open. People know how to game the system. People can boost or drag a product on Amazon. I think that as a retailer, they have a responsibility to make their reviews have some sort of integrity. And like you said, if you have a constructive criticism or even you just hate it, but it's legitimate criticism, that is very different than the guy that hates the RPG pundit, or the wife of the guy that hates I Hate Ryan David, going on and just creating 30 accounts and blasting something. So there's a method. People are going to say, well, you guys are always pro free speech. I'm not saying that I'm not pro free speech. I'm saying that drive-through has an obligation to its partners and its customers to provide authentic reviews. And I think that's why their process only allows those people to do it. And I appreciate that. If those people want to go and create 30 blogs and do their thing, they can go and do that. But if you want to have it on a platform that has financials tied to it, both for the contributor and for drive-through or one bookshelf, they're going to keep it clean and they're going to keep it with integrity. And I applaud them for doing that. So I'm no fan, obviously, of this particular text, but it doesn't deserve to be review bombed no more than something that I really like deserves to be artificially inflated. Let's see what we've got in the chat.
Or review bombed,
right.
So Miss Miller says Candela Obscura is like a hot cosplay girl that dresses sexy and then publicly shames you for looking at her. L points out that Indestructo Boy and Polygon, neither of which I believe could be in any way called anti-woke, called Candela Obscura half-assed and preachy trash.
And that's the audience that they're screaming at, and they don't like it. So
it's been badly received, and that's again a bad sign for Critical Role, right?
Jeff Ramdenkar, our buddy from the Great White North, says unless someone buys it, then they should not review it. That makes sense to me.
Yeah, well, that's already policy, right? You can't do a review, and reviews are more important than comments because on a product it'll say what the it'll show a number of stars depending on how good the reviews have been. So if you guys like my products and you've bought one of my products at drive-thru, I'd be very grateful if you make a positive review on any of them. Just had to throw that in there.
No, that's very meaningful because it does matter. And positive reviews are harder to get than negative reviews, because when someone dislikes something, and take it doesn't have to be books or RPG products. It could be, you go out and you have a bad dinner. You're more likely to be inclined to go and I want to spread the word so that this doesn't happen to anybody else. But when you like something, you're less likely to go and say, hey, this is really great. It's just human nature. So, yeah, if you bought something from Pundit or Venger or anyone and you really liked it, make sure that you drop it a good review. Edgelord says he believes he has given you that good review, Pundit. So there you go.
The Ultra American says, my only issue with the people who are reviewing Candela Obscura is that they're using it to shit on people who like to play non-OSR games. Well, I don't think that the issue is that it isn't OSR, though. It's also legitimately, apparently, a bad game.
And I'm going to go on record. I did not dive deep into it. I've watched a couple of the other reviews that were put out there because I knew that it wasn't my cup of tea to begin with. I saw said image that I shared with us and I said, nope, not for me. But also having some sort of compass with it, I'm not going to shit on it when I don't have a basis to do so.
Yeah.
I think everybody's kind of on board with us, Pundit. It's looking.
Like,
Timothy
some
Shanks
people,
says-
some people seem to be unconvinced about drive-through, saying that they didn't remove any reviews. But I think that it's actually very telling if there are no reviews, right? Because that just means that even the fans of Critical Role are perhaps not all that impressed with this game.
I will say this: I know that drive-through has made some decisions that have ruffled folks in our end of the hobby, to the point where they won't patronize on drive-through. My experience with drive-through has been nothing but professional both ways. So I have no reason to believe that they would lie about this. Like, it doesn't make sense. And like you said, Pundit, there's no reviews there. It would be different if you said, here's a screenshot from a week ago and there's 50. And here's a screenshot today and there's 5.
Like, nobody's been able to post any actual evidence of there ever having been a review there, as far as I know. Edgelord says, I think I mentioned the crime and punishment section on drive-through for Lion and Dragon. Well, yeah, that's one of the appendices of Lion and Dragon, and I think that's a useful tool for people who want to understand how crime and punishment worked in the real medieval world. Judd Goswick says, Condell Obscura sucks isn't a hot take in the crowd. Yeah, I don't think anyone's debating that, right? But the debate is really about the drive-through RPG thing. So yeah, I saw that there were a couple of these guys that that took advantage of this discussion to try to claim that drive-through had erased reviews that they had made of some of my products, right? People who hate me. And I think that's very funny. But I know that there have been cases, and they claim that I made drive-through remove them, which is nonsense, because I have no interconnection with drive-through because I'm not a publisher, right? Now, it might be that my publishers got some review removed. And if that's the case, it would have had to have been basically somebody who used the review section to post, slander and nonsense about me. And that's the typical thing you get from these sorts of guys, So I'm not surprised if that could be the case. And I'm pretty sure that if drive-through saw someone post a review that had nothing to do with the product and was instead attempted, character assassination, they probably might block it, because that's not what the reviews are meant to be for, right? And I think that would also be legitimate. I don't know if they did it or not, because again, I don't publish anything, right? So that's my publishers that are in charge of that,
And if it happened, silver lining, they had to buy your book to do that.
Yeah, so, that's right. People bought my products just to shit on me, which is very funny. But it's the kind of thing that my obsessed stalkers like to do, So I wouldn't be surprised.
No, I know a couple of the names on the short list, and they would do it.
If someone said, oh, I don't know, I don't like how hit points work in Lion and Dragon or something like that, right? Like that's a legitimate thing to put in a review if that's what you really believe, right? But if you're writing it to say, well, the RPG pundit is a homophobe or something like that, or the RPG pundit, he betrayed the Red Room, which I think is exceedingly funny. There are some guys that have gone on campaigns, and I've seen this, they post on my YouTube channel and just complete nonsense, because they think that I was mean to the Red Room when the Red Room was removed from drive-through, and they must be I don't know how they could possibly be reacting to the fact that now I'm collaborating with the Red Room on their own story. That their argument makes them look increasingly ridiculous day by day.
But they have to double down on it because they're committed to that narrative.
Yeah, basically, because they're idiots. So that's how it works.
Chris Miller has an answer to your question.
Here we are. Chris Miller says, I flagged and removed several comments about Punditor's book on drive-through, comments, not reviews. So there you go.
There you go.
Because
so those
there
were
are
in that discussion session.
And if drive-through didn't manage that, or allow publishers to manage that by flagging, I guess is what Chris is pointing out, then that would, that would be harmful to them, like it would be harmful to the publishers, right? Because then it would turn drive-through into something like RPGNet or something. Like it would be something that would just, everything would be covered in hate comments that had zero content, so that it's a business front, and it makes perfect sense. Like if you want to go and post stuff on X or post stuff on the RPG site, you can do that, and there you're going to be called out as an idiot, but unless you're breaking the rules somehow, you're not going to get censored,
That's what Edgelord just said. He says, as much as I fight with you, pundit, I would never leave a review or comment shitting on you. That's what Twitter is for. So,
damn right. There's a time and a place for everything, and it's usually X.
If it's getting to be that time of the night, chat, if there's something you want to ask, make sure that you get it into the chat so that we can, talk about it. Candela Obscura sort of went over like a fart in church. We're not talking to the right crowd tonight. So, but I think the good part of the discussion is really this meat that came out around, should these platforms have some sort of internal regulation? And I think we're on the same page to say that yes, they should. Judd says it's X o'clock.
somebody in the chat pointed out that mentioned Wretched Epoch, and Black Lodge pointed out that if you actually want something similar but actually good, you should check out Wretched Epoch, and I would certainly endorse that. I thought that was one of the best Red Room products.
It is my second favorite Red Room product, and they just recently, within the last couple of months, updated it to the second edition too. So
they're doing second editions of everything, which is just crazy. Considering how quickly they did that, because they've only been around for like 2 years. They've already.
I always say Miguel and Sylvia are like working machines, man.
It's really impressive, actually. There was some other comment that I'm trying to find now that I scrolled past that I wanted to point out, but shit, I can't see it now. Let me take a look here. Jeez, where is it? No. Well,
while you're looking for that, people are putting in their favorite Red Room products. Which Wretched is my favorite? Edgelord asked. My favorite is Wretchploitation, because I used that as a foundation and skinned sort of like a Hitman / assassination game on top of it that we played at my table. Our buddy, Double D, Diversity and Dragons, is here, and he says Days of Lead is good from the Red Room. Point Blank likes Wretched Country. Yeah, their stuff just in general is solid, right? You're not going to go wrong with a Red Room game, at least not so far. And Miguel and Sylvia, like I said, they're machines. They just crank it out left and right. Chris Miller is taken off. Good night, my friend.
See you later. All right, I can't find what I was going to comment on, but I saw somebody asked about the Ed Greenwood thing.
Oh my goodness!
So for those of you who don't know, apparently Ed Greenwood did a retweet where he expressed his support for some kind of comic book, and I hadn't been able to find which comic book it was, because he later deleted the comment, because a whole bunch of people went after him, because supposedly the comment was, the people he was retweeting were like anti-woke people, and so a whole bunch of woke people went after him, and because he's a boomer, he immediately apologized and deleted the thing.
It was more than just apologizing, pundit. He went full out.
To explain how supportive he is and everything like that, and whatever.
All of the buzzwords were there, and it was a string, because the first one was atrocious, and when it was poorly received by the regular sane part of the hobby, he doubled and tripled up on it and just kept it was like woke word salad by the end. And I was like, oh man, Eddie, stop it. It was not good. It was not a good look because it was very disingenuous.
Yeah, it was. But I mean, that's boomers for you. The Ultra American says, I've got Lion and Dragon and Invisible College on my DTRPG wish list to eventually get. All right, well, thank you for that, and I hope you will eventually get them.
On his way out, Chris Miller said, never apologize, never bend the knee to people who don't even know who you are or play your games. And that's exactly right. He did all of that, Ed Greenwood did. Made this whole kerfuffle, said all of the right buzzwords to people that are never going to give him a dime. Never going to give him a dime. So...
L said, Pundit, did you see the article in Vomander's Herald where Cynthia Williams told a WotC town hall that BG3 saved WotC financially this year, according to an insider? I didn't see it there, but I did see it elsewhere. And yeah, I mean, it was really funny because apparently at this meeting, the HR person for WotC was saying, we're killing it and, you know, we're doing so good. And then Cynthia Williams said, no, actually, we're doing really badly. You know? And if it wasn't for Baldur's Gate 3, we'd all be in huge trouble and there's going to be firings. That was just before they fired a bunch of people in December, right? That was when that happened. So, yeah, I mean, but that's what I already claimed. You know, I was saying that before that whole incident happened. I was pointing out that they're using the Baldur's Gate 3 profit to cover up the fact of how badly WotC is actually doing, you know.
100%. 100%. You still can't differentiate what was video game profit and what was actual WotC money in that quarter. I've tried so hard.
Importantly, before Chris Miller left, he said, Pundit, I will finish Baptism of Fire soon and it will look good. I have no doubt that it will look good. Any of you have seen any of the books that Mad Scribe has done for me? So, you know, Sword and Caravan, Wilderlands, Social Encounters, Heroes and Villains of the Silk Road. All of them are beautiful looking books, and that's all on Chris Miller. So I'm sure Baptism of Fire will look great. I have no doubt about that.
Great job with your layouts and with the art, so there's no doubt.
Yeah.
Anything else you want to talk about, Pundit? Otherwise,
I do kind of wish he would start doing AI art because he likes to support artists and what have you. But you know, if it was AI art, we'd be published by now. You know, this is the problem with artists. Oh, Jeff Ramdekar says, grab Dark Albion and Cults of Chaos. Great, thank you very much.
Next up, grab some Greenhaven, man. Pop it in.
There you go. Calvinani says, it's sad to see that about Ed G. Yeah, well, you know, it's funny actually, because I mean, you know, it's Ed Greenwood said a lot about how he's like supportive of all sexualities. Also, when in his big apology tour, and I mean that part is undoubtedly true, right? Because if you're familiar with what the actual original Forgotten Realms, not the published version by TSR or WotC, but like the actual Forgotten Realms that Ed Greenwood wrote and runs, it is way more sword and sorcery than Forgotten Realms is, especially these days, and it has always been a little bit Chult-like, let's say, in its frequent references to sexuality and kink and stuff like that. You know, like he's always been that way. You know, he's I guess he's a hippie or something. So I'm sure that part of it is actually true, which makes it just extra funny, everything that that went down, you know.
I don't think it surprised anyone that he said it. It's just he took what, even if you're going to apologize, which I can't ever endorse. You can own what you say, but you don't have to apologize for offending people. But he took what could have been such a small, insignificant throwaway apology and just, you know, he went full soap opera on it. And I think that was the part that made it so disingenuous for me, because you took something that you were clearly pandering to an audience. And there's no doubt that the things he said he believes, right? Because he's shown bits and pieces of where his politics fall. Whatever, everybody's entitled to have that opinion, even if it's wrong. But the point is that he just went so over the top. It was so disingenuous. I was irritated. We talked a little bit about it on our stream yesterday, and I'm still irritated when I think about it now, because genuinely, when The Realms was new, I liked it a lot, right? So...
Yeah, I mean, the original box set of the Forgotten Realms was heavily bowdlerized compared to what Greenwood's own realms are, but it was still pretty badass sword and sorcery sort of stuff, you know, like compared to what the later reissues of, you know, as Forgotten Realms has gone along, it's become more and more generic fantasy in terms of the official books, and it therefore sucks more, you know, but... you know, this is just because, you know, he's like, he's 70 or something, you know, and like boomers have absolutely no immunity to being called, you know, being called racist or sexist or, you know, intolerant, you know, like they will instantly react with apology because that to them, that's the most terrifying thing, you know.
Do you think that it's because maybe it's that human thing where they're coming to grips with their mortality, right? They're
I
coming
think they've
down
always
the mountain.
See, Ken Wilber talks a lot about this, when he talks about the mimetics of generational thought, right? And so like there are a number of different values that exist in a society, and like, you know, being truthful, being efficient, being good, and being nice, you know, are like the four categories that he puts it in, and different generations, because of reasons of different historical events that contextualize them, will put those four items in different sets of priority. And in essence, the hippie boomer meme is that it prioritizes being nice at the top of that list, right, and being effective as like the bottom, you know. So it means that like the most important thing is, you know, like you've got to be nice, you got to be cool, you got to love everyone, man, you know, and all that sort of stuff, right? So the postmodernists, who also emerged at that same time, they were consciously or unconsciously aware of that mentality and manipulated that by realizing that if you accused people in that generation of not being nice, that would be like the worst possible thing that you could do to them, right? So, you know, they will sacrifice everything else for the sake of seeming to be nice people, you know, which is very different than seeming to be good, right? Those are two different things. And so it's just typical. That's why it's been so effective, right? Because the people running our society still, even today, right, though they're finally starting to die out, right? But the has been largely boomers, right? So you take these boomer politicians, boomer CEOs and all that, and you accuse them of not being nice, and they will move heaven and earth to placate you for that accusation, you know.
Wait till the Gen X comes in and we don't give a shit.
Yeah, Gen X is on a totally different mimetic set, you know, like we prioritize being truthful above almost everything else, you know. So, you know, that's for somebody of a certain age, and I mean, some boomers have evolved, right? Like there are people that were total hippies in the 60s that nowadays are voting MAGA or what have you, and that's fine, right? And there are obviously these are broad categories, so there are groups in every generation that have always been countercultural in the real sense of not falling for the dominant meme, but in general, they're going to be the most likely to apologize if accused of being intolerant. You know?
I never thought about that, but I can see it, and I kind of want you to, if when we get off the air, tell me this article and this author, because I want to read about that. It's truly fascinating to me, and it really on like a personal level, it makes me understand a little more about why my parents are freaking insane right now. So it's interesting. Anything else from the chat that we want to pull in here? Anything else you want to bring up, Pundit?
Otherwise, Gen Z is just easy to brainwash because of Baby Shark. I like that. I don't know. Does anybody on the chat have anything else that we want to comment about before we close up?
Well, while they're putting that in, I'm looking at the calendar for us. It looks like our next Inappropriate Characters is going to be Sunday night, February 11th. February 11th. Yeah.
That'll be as close as we get to a Valentine's episode, I guess.
I'm going to be exhausted, man. I have a business trip the week prior, and I'm flying in that Saturday night. So I'm going to be dead man walking next Inappropriate Characters.
That's okay as long as you're alive enough to manage the.
I'll be here in body.
Maybe we'll get a guest star to help cover for your zombified status.
Our buddy Jeff Ramdekar again. $5 Canadian super chat. Thank you very much. What monsters do we feel are underutilized in the OSR?
It's an interesting question.
Yeah. The OSR is so broad, right? What would be, like, I could say what I think is generally underutilized, but then someone's going to be able to pull out a product that is off my radar because the OSR is so widespread and decentralized. They're going to say, no, here it is. So I'm going to let you go first.
Well, I think that, I'm the wrong person to ask here because you guys all know what my dominant style is, and so I would say that the real thing about a lot of OSR products, because they tend towards a traditionalist view of D&D. Let's say if we're talking about, like, especially all the ones that are just basically kind of clone products or near clones, will make a lot of use of kind of the standard D&D monsters, at least all the ones that aren't proprietary to Wizards or
Right.
TSR, right? But to me, maybe in a lot of context of adventure products and things like that, what might be underutilized the most is human enemies, So, in my games, I'll often have monsters based on myth and legend and all of that, which is also something that doesn't get utilized as much. You get a lot of, like, these weird monsters that some publishers do. Obviously, Lamentations of the Flame Princess specializes in weird, unique monsters, that are usually kind of gross in some way. But in terms of, to me, like, I'm not saying everybody needs to do this, and actually, if they did, that would probably be competition against me, right? But I've made a lot of benefit from ignoring a lot of the standard D&D stuff and going back to historical myth and legend and drawing monsters from there. And you're going to see that again, for example, in Baptism of Fire, where there are going to be a ton of new monsters in there that all come from Slavic mythology, and Slavic mythology is really freaking weird, so it's incredibly unusual creatures, and also actual, like, historical versions of monsters that have later been presented in very different ways in, like, D&D, right? So, for example, Jedza, which is the Polish version of Baba Yaga, is going to be one of the monsters in Baptism of Fire. And there will be some parts of that are going to be, of course, similar to the Baba Yaga that you've seen in D&D, but there's also going to be some differences, and you're going to get a lot of that, So, generally speaking, the monsters from mythology and legend tend to be way more weird to us, like, in a way, as time has gone by and our, and especially post-industrial civilization has become so standardized, a lot of the strangeness of some specific cultural monsters have been taken away, right? And so that's one of the things that I do. But the other thing is that I really like having human enemies, like that are dangerous because of human motives, and that's good stuff. When you have that in there, So I mean, Cults of Chaos, my source book for generating evil cults and organizations that you could use in almost any game, and it's an incredibly good generator. You can in less than 10 minutes you can generate an entire enemy group and all the plot lines that you need to run an adventure around them. The main baddies are obviously the cult itself, and those are always humans, right? And they're humans that are doing terrible things, and that's, I think, something that might be underused in certain other OSR games. But as you say, the OSR is so broad, because I mean, there are some, I mean, if you're playing, what is it, OWB or whatever, the white box World War II game, your enemies there are pretty much always going to be Nazis, right? So like that, and same thing with a lot of other kind of historical based OSR games. So I'm not saying that that's something that is never used other than me, but it is something that I think in a lot of the kind of standard OSR products might be underused in favor of picking some kind of humanoid enemy or something like that.
I'll pivot a little bit with my thought on it, and then I'll give a monster that I think doesn't get enough love. But a lot of times, I think that the environment itself is underutilized, not necessarily as a monster, but as a threat, or as this omnipresent being. So there's not enough love for environmental factors in games that, and there are some that do it very well. But generally speaking, we sort of look past environmental factors. In fact, we're going to talk about that next week, cheap plug, on the big Nerdcognito podcast that drops on Tuesdays. Not this Tuesday, but next Tuesday. So I'm already thinking 2 weeks in advance. But in the environment as a threat, as a hazard, as almost an obstacle to overcome is something that doesn't get considered as much. And then if I had to pick a monster that fell to the background and doesn't get the love it deserves, it's got to be the poor troglodytes. Everyone has replaced them with orcs and kobolds and goblins now. Give the troglodytes some love. Have some troglodytes in your next campaign. Gosh darn it. I do like the troglodytes. Yeah.
All right. I've had troglodytes show up sometimes in my D&D games, but I don't know. They do seem a bit dull in some contexts compared to goblinoids. But
see, everybody hates the troglodyte. The troglodytes need love. Mike McLaughlin said it. Trogs need love. They absolutely do. So that's the monster that I'm gonna pick. Well, I think it's something with tentacles.
Yeah, well, which is completely wrong because there's tentacles are the most overused feature of any RPG at this point.
L made me laugh tonight. 5e is full of troglodytes. Have you seen Connie Chang, Jeremy Crawford, Mackenzie Darmus? We're talking OSR. Oh.
All right.
Let's see. Everyone hates the Kender. Fair. I was never a huge Dragonlance guy to begin with, and Kender have become so cliche now.
Well, the problem with Kender is similar to the problem with Malkavians and Vampire, right? Is that it's always going to be the most annoying player who decides to play one, and then they're going to use the excuse of their of the character to
I'm a Kender, yeah.
In the group, right? it's a class. The problem, Kender wouldn't be bad if they weren't a player character class, right?
Right. Right. But as soon as you opened up to be a PC, you're right. It's a mask that they can use. No. I'm just doing that because I'm playing a Kender. No, you're doing that because you're an asshole.
Exactly. Jeff Ramdekar says 99% of people can't play Kender right. That's also true. Yeah. Michael McLaughlin in quotes, but it's what my character would do. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I guess we've gotten to the end now.
It seems like it.
A couple of interesting mini questions at the end there.
Just a reminder for everybody, mark your calendar, February 11. That'll be our next spot. Be sure to stay on the lookout for all of the stuff. Mad Scribe is going to get out Pundit's new release shortly. Check out Venger's Kickstarter. Let's get him at least to that 7,500 mark so that you can do world building like a fucking boss. And $2 if you want the POD of Green, or not the POD, the PDF of Greenhaven, and the POD for those of you that have said, Ryan, I need a book in my hands. It's coming soon. I think that's everything on the reminder list for folks to do. If you're not subscribed to the Inappropriate YouTube channel, make sure that you do. Ring that bell. Also subscribe to the RPG Pundits channel, Venger Satanis, and the Nerd Cognito channel. All of those are linked in the description, so you know what to do. Every Google account you possibly have, and your boomer mothers. Any last thoughts, Pundit?
No, I think you've just about said it. Check out my channel, and in any of the descriptions of any of my videos, you'll find lists of all of my products. I think I'm at like 130 products now, something like that. So you've got a lot to choose from there, and be sure to check it out, because all of my stuff you're going to find is made for playing with, not just for putting on a bookshelf or something.
Right.
So,
and if you like the show, check out the Patreon too, right?
Sorry?
I was going to say, if they like the show and think that it's valuable and don't want to throw YouTube a cut, check out the Patreon. That's another way you can support all of us here on Inappropriate Characters. So,
great, yeah.
All right, friends, thank you for showing up. We appreciate all of you in the chat. As always, you bring so much to the show. And hey, you make us think and laugh and consider things and ways to be more inappropriate. Until next time, my name was Ryan David. I was joined by the RPG Pundit, and by now the snoozing Venger Satanis. And we'll see you in 4 weeks, everybody.
Thank you very much.